Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is campeón! All creatures great and small.
Rothrock going to collect it. He does just about. Runs into the advertising awning. Low to our left. Ball goes in. Oh, what a cross! And what a goal!
Where's my copy?
I got a bunch of them in the car. I'll get you some.
You're handing them out for free already.
How many
cost on them?
$50.
I'll bet on you.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes on the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. I am Jeremiah Shan. It is Friday, and I am once again joined by Niko Moreno for what we learned this week. Niko, it's been rough. It's been rough around these parts.
It's been a week. It's definitely been a week. Thank you, Jeremiah, as always. Audience, family of Sounder at Heart, always a pleasure to be here with you to see what we learned about a grim, dark, frustrating, difficult week with the Sounders. And I'm not going to try to have an angle. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be a little positive. Sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what? It's time to just swing the hammer. Today, I'm just a coin toss. I'm going to let it be. Whatever we go. And then hopefully I don't get too irate. And we can just have a good conversation about what happened with the Sounders in a couple of games and what's ahead, of course.
Yeah, so since we last recorded, the Sounders played Austin FC. They lost 2-1. And I don't know if this was look, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Austin FC is a bad team. They looked like a bad team. They probably should have been leading at halftime. But the Sounders did come out in the second half, and they probably had their best stretch of offensive play that they've had in literal months. In other than maybe the Querétaro game, where they created a bunch of chances. Their press actually created a lot of those chances. Snyder Burnell came in at halftime. He looked energetic. He put a spark into the team. And I had this odd feeling, though, because it went from in the first half where I had this sort of comfort in knowing that this was a bad team and not really expecting much. And I started getting nervous in the second half because I saw them playing well. And I'm like, man, if they play like this and they don't win, that's really brutal. And sure enough, really against the run of play, Austin FC scores first on a really dumb goal. Like, let's be honest. It was a well-taken shot by Facundo Torres, who had scored one other goal this year, the big DP signing. It is sort of one of the many examples of why it's so frustrating to spend money in this league. But anyway, Facundo Torres gets allowed to just walk into the penalty area completely unmarked. It was either Snyder Burnell just not following his mark, which is to me most likely what happened there, or you can put it on Kim Keehee for being so slow to step. Either way, totally clean look at goal. He scores, and then they add Sounders come close to getting an equalizer. I did think we may as well hover on this a little bit. Albert Rusnak gets a shot off that Brian Schmetzer says he scores 9 out of 10 times. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of shots that Brian Schmetzer insists that Albert Rusnak scores 9 out of 10 times. I don't know that this was one of them. It was a good chance. He forced a decent save, but it was nothing like a gimme shot. I don't know what, I thought that was kind of it's a funny little turn of phrase that Brian uses, saying that guys are supposed to score anything, frankly, 9 out of 10 times. But then Austin, of course, gets what turns out to be the game winner. Look, and we could talk about this too. I think Paul Rothrock is probably guilty of trying to do too much. He dribbles out of the box instead of just booting it away. It turns it over. And then Brandon Vasquez, who frankly was bad in this game, I thought he was basically invisible, just throws a blind cross to the back post. Bureau comes flying in. Honestly, a great goal from the perspective that if they try this play 100 times, if he puts that on frame 5, I think that's pretty high. I don't think that's about as low probability of a chance as you're going to create. But look, Austin went for it. They got it. The Sounders get a late goal from Stuart Hawkins, which is great to see. They cut it to 2-1. They put a little pressure on. At one point, looked like they may be able to pull out a tie. But anyway, in the end, it's an 8th straight loss overall in league play. It's their 4th straight league loss at home. These are obviously club records. I don't know. This was one of the worst teams in the league, 14th place in the Western Conference. They rotated 10 players, including their goalkeeper, who was getting his first MLS start. I mean, they made him work, but just another example of a team that just cannot get out of its own way, that can't beat bad opponents. You look at the teams that they've played during this 8-game stretch. All but one of those teams was out of a playoff spot when they played them. That team was LAFC, who had lost 3 straight coming into the game. This is not a tough stretch of the schedule. It is only tough because they have been so bad and so injured. I don't know. Where do we go from here? I said a lot of things. Where do we go from here, Niko?
Yeah, look, a guy that both you and I respect a lot, that we will not name them. We talked, I thought it said it best. Like, is there a point? Like, can we drop enough? Can you fall far enough? I don't know. I don't know if
right.
I don't know if there's an end to the well. Like, you threw the coin and you still haven't heard it hit the bottom. And I don't know if you're gonna hear the bottom, right? So it's difficult to just look at this team and be optimistic about anything. You said it all, basically. You said half of my notes, but what I would reiterate is that in this 8 games that this team has lost, they've lost to the worst from the East in Philadelphia. They've lost to the worst of the West. And now Austin, you give Austin their first win on the road. You have lost Cascadia. You've lost to Portland. You've lost to Vancouver. Man, there's just a variety of losses that I never thought that you'd see from this team. Some has been frustrating games where they looked okay at one point and not the other. There are other games where they just look completely, outperformed and outmatched and almost uninspiring. So, man, it's been a rough one for the Sounders. What I did learn this week was that the team cannot get away from injuries. They cannot get away from easy goals. As you mentioned, look, the goal that you give up against Juan Facundo Torres, that has struggled since coming back into MLS. He mentioned it himself during the press conference. I was there. He's kind of asked to do a new role, very different to what he did in Orlando, where he was able to be more free, a lot more in the attacking third. But in that particular goal, man, it's all about being slow in defensive transition. I mean, it's a very quick and simple switching the point of attack from Austin. Then there's a very quick 1-2 with Jaden Nelson that, I don't know, there's just a lot of ball watching. And then you allow Facundo Torres to just stroll, like you said. He just jogs into the 18. Nobody's following the runner. Kim Ki-hee is, you know, in no man's land. I don't know who he's trying to mark. And Snyder Burnell, he is too passive and too far off the marker. He needs to be yelling at, if he notices that Kim Ki-hee has his back completely turned and is completely unaware that there is a jogging number 11 behind him, you gotta be able to let him know. So this is just, again, more compounding problems of lack of intensity at moments, a lot of miscommunication. And I will say that although the goals didn't happen in the second half, I mean, the goals didn't happen in the first half and they happened in the second half when the Sounders actually played their better ball. I was still very confused by a lot of the starting 11. First of all, love Kim Ki-hee, nice guy. I think he's a very solid piece. If you needed a guy to come in and help you, you know, because your starters went out and he could come in and sub in, and at one point that made sense in the season. But as the season goes along, and I don't know, the possibility of this team really making a run in the playoffs, to me at least, looks farther and farther away. I mean, they're close to being cooked, to be honest, because of all the injuries and Lucian Ferreira. That's just my take on it. But you should already be looking at guys that are going to be big pieces next year. I mean, that's just the way I would approach it. So how Stu Hawkins doesn't get the start instead of Kim Ki-hee, I don't understand. The second thing that I question about the starting 11 was Danny Musovski. I don't know how you stick with Danny Musovski after he had a horrible game against Vancouver, and then you stick with him. And he was just as bad in this one. He had the one opportunity, sure. He still didn't put it away. So that's number one. Number two is, look, I never saw it, and I went back and I looked at it, but when Jada Evans asked Brian about, you know, changing formations and things, look, I was surprised that he said that this team played in a 4-diamond-2, because I never saw it. Now, I know that it had been mentioned in the press box, and I thought people were just, I don't know, joking, because look, I went back and looked at it, and it looked more like a Dorito. I never saw the diamond. I never saw the 2 up top. You know, Brian said that maybe it was personnel. I mean, if you're going to play with 2 up top, play with 2 up top. Play with both of your strikers. You're giving me this Rothrock play up there. Come on. Like, really? That's what we're doing? And I don't want to be contradictory, because I did say that I wanted this team to try something, but this is not what I meant. I mean, I thought that you were going to simplify the game, right? When your team is not doing well and you're down in the bottom of your roster with what you have available, you simplify it. You don't complicate it, and you certainly don't complicate it one day in a quick turnaround when you had one day to really put it together, because you have a region day. I mean, it blows my mind. And the team looked confused. The press was terrible. The
press was very bad. Yes.
Austin was passing through them like they were little kids. Like, you know, when you play with your kids' friends, and, you know, they're still 80 years old and they're all just coming at you. It looked that simple, man. So, oh, man, see, I already got upset. But that was confusing to me. The game overall was bad. Because that first half was horrendous. Then you kind of put it together in the second half, and you look like you could have probably won that game at one point, obviously, because you know, Austin ends up asking the ref, "Hey man, you gonna call this thing?" I mean, the coach for Austin was like all over the fourth official, and they wanted the game to be over, but it was a little too late, man. So I don't understand it. I really don't.
Yeah, I also went back and watched the first half, specifically looking to see if I can see this diamond shape. And I guess if you can at least imagine that the instructions that, like, there's semblances of it, but it just didn't look any different to me than it looked in any, like, you put out the same personnel that you would put out in a 4-2-3-1, and lo and behold, it looks like a 4-2-3-1, you know? It looks all the time. Rothrock ends up playing almost as a forward anyway. That's sort of the assignment of the left winger in the Sounders 4-2-3-1. So yeah, I didn't really see it, but if anything, I'm with you. I think it confused the press. The press was an absolute mess in the first half, and it was a lot better in the second half. That's something that I think you can take away from it is like, look, if you're, and I don't know where this diamond midfield came from either. They've not trained in that almost at all year. They have trained in this 3-4-3. So why not use a 3-4-3? I don't understand that. But I think what we're seeing is that a lot of players are being asked to do things that they just aren't set up to do. And to some degree, that is just the fault of all these injuries. But I still do come back to this idea that it's like, if you look at that lineup, it's not that different than what we would have expected. Sebastian Gomez, no, we didn't expect him to be a starter. Peter Kingston, no, we didn't really expect him to be a starter. But, a lot of other guys in there are players who were plausibly in this starting group. Albert Rusnak, top of the list. Danny Masovsky, top of the list. Paul Rothrock, top of the list. You kind of go through Jackson Reagan, Alex Roland, not in the defensive midfield. I don't know how I feel about Alex Roldan in the defensive midfield. Let's stop on that one. This seems to be the default sort of position that they have found themselves in. Do you like him being used there?
I do, just because I think it's the most conservative and the one that gives you the highest floor. And when a team is in shambles and on fire, as this team is, you need to, again, be just better on the ball. And I think he does that. He's played, center back before. He's, been a guy that, could have some real strong defensive instances and contributions, something that this team doesn't have a lot of. I thought at one point that maybe Tino could do that because he had a decent game, but then the next one wasn't as good. And he's younger, so I feel more comfortable asking Alex to do that. But you need to really set those roles, because a lot of times, again, it goes back to simplifying the game. You cannot play the pivots the way you always play them when you don't have the players to do so. So you just got to be a lot more clearer about who's going to stay, who's going to go. I thought it was funny that Brian said, in the second half, we had Kalani and Kingston, and we told one goes and one stays. Yeah. I mean, simplify the shit, and it works. And so same goes for the pivots, and just tell Alex to just worry about being a disruptor and staying a little deeper and freeing the ball quick. And it's just, so to your point, yes, I do like Alex there. I think that he does the most balanced job to hold that position. So he looked better with Snyder, clearly, than he did with Kingston. And I think that has a lot to do with Snyder's more of a one-way player. Like he could do both, but he's always gonna gravitate towards going
His instincts
forward.
are attack.
Yes,
Yeah.
when Kingston he can be a guy that kind of drops back. So I think that there was a lot of moments where Alex and him were doing a similar role. And then defensively, he struggled as well, because they were attacking the gap in between him and Albert on the left pocket, and they were just cooking it. I mean, they were going through that side. And I think a lot of that has to do as well with, Albert is just not very good at defending and not very good at pressing. And so it's maybe unfair to give Kingston all the criticism, but yes, I think I prolonged this answer way too long. I do like Alex there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we're learning also in this stretch is, look, Albert clearly was he's never been a great defensive player, but he has been a useful piece. Like, he's not so bad defensively that he bogs your team down for the most part. And I think you can look at at 2023, 2024, especially, where the Sounders were the best defense in the league, even with him on the field, right? And last year we saw a little bit of that starting to cost them. And this year, here's the thing: Albert is their best offensive weapon right now. That's just that's just facts. Like it's by default on some level, but he almost needs to be out there in order to give them any sort of offensive hope.
Agreed.
But he has it's now at a point where they don't have the horses to cover for him defensively. And so his defensive shortcomings are much more obvious than they've ever been before. And that's a problem. That's he is a liability on defense. And I don't necessarily blame him for that, but it's a reality. And they need guys to cover a lot more ground in the defensive midfield. And they don't. And that's another reason why I wonder about this diamond where I guess theoretically Gomez, I guess maybe the idea was that it was going to be like a low sitting, like a 3 defensive midfielder setup, but Gomez was not really involved in that. I didn't think, even though he was supposed to theoretically be a shuttler. I mean, they just don't have a lot of options right now. I mean, that's really what the problem is that, and I don't know what they're going to do against Cincinnati. Like, are we going to see, they've been trying to manage Brunell's minutes because he is apparently carrying some sort of knock. Alex Roldan is still coming back from injury. Tino Lopez is going to have to start. I would assume that he was going to start at center back ideally, but he might have to start in the defensive midfield. So I don't know. Are we going to get a Kim Hawkins center back duo? Which there's just a lot of bad options right now. And FC Cincinnati is not a team that you want to put out your second choice defense when you're already down to your third choice defense to begin with. This could be ugly. We'll talk about Cincinnati later. But one thing I did want to bring up is the whole Jackson Reagan thing, where he goes down with what we later find out is a hyperextended knee. He stayed down for an awful long time. They bring the stretcher out. It looked pretty dire. And then all of a sudden he's up. He's moving around. He stays in the game. Okay, great. And I figure maybe he'll come out at halftime. He comes back from halftime. He gets to the 69th minute. He starts kind of flexing his knee again. And it's like, I got to come out. And look, I think it opens up a lot of questions about the whole, and we know we're pretty sure he didn't travel to Cincinnati. We don't know how serious the injury is. It might just be precautionary, but it definitely feels like one of those things where they brought him in, or they wanted to keep him in just to sort of lose the narrative of another injured player. But was that the smart choice? And I realized that Brian was probably getting advice from his physio team saying, like, look, he says he's fine. We can't see any damage. Maybe it's up to you. But I don't know. What would you have liked to have seen done there?
First of all, I think you're right in terms of, I don't know if it's Brian's idea that he can, cover the sun with one hand and like we don't see, look, nothing happened here, but it's clear that there was a bizarre
answer.
I asked him directly, what did he go into? You leave him on the field? And I thought he was going to be very transparent about, look, the player wanted to stay. I listened to the medical team. They thought he was fine. He got the green light, ended up going in, thought he was fine. But what I would have liked to seen is, look, if he did come back in and he did want to play, I'm going to keep him off in the second right after halftime.
Right.
I would have put in Stu Hawkinson. With how crazy things are right now and the pandemic of injuries, I might have taken him off right off the bat. But look, I understand the player want to come back. Fine. Let him go. He finished the half. Sweet. That is house money now, baby. House money. So let's keep him off. You talk to Stu at halftime. You let him know what you want out of him. You have 15 minutes to really work on what you want him to do when he gets on this field, and then you roll it. But you don't let the guy just stay in after what happened. And especially if it was a hyperextended knee, man. I mean, wait for it, right? Because once you cool down, right, in the heat of the moment and in the heat of just playing, and this is something that a lot of players talk about, that maybe you don't feel something or whatever. So, okay, he stayed in. Once he sat down and he cooled down, that's when I would have just said, let's just be cautious. You are my last top player out of like the core group of this team. So can we keep you safe? This is a game that is kind of inconsequential. There's It's 0-0. It's a rotated. Austin is a Wednesday game. I have a game against Cincinnati FC on the weekend. Let me hold you. And he didn't. So that's what I would like to see. And I would have liked to see him put in Stu at halftime.
Yeah, it felt like an unnecessary risk. The upside is, I guess the upside is you're going for a win at home and you don't know when the next chance you're going to get a win at home is. But they just can't afford to play fast and loose with injuries. And they look, he's as far as we know, again, maybe we got bad information, but as far as we know, he's out for this game.
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
That's for
we know
sure.
For sure.
I heard that he did not travel, that there was an MRI that was given to him, obviously just to make sure everything's fine. We'll see what that MRI results are, but for now he's not traveling. I was trying to find out if Christian and Jordan traveled. I have not heard anything,
but because there's no availability today, we're gonna just have to find out.
We're gonna have to guess. Yeah, but what I will say is that whether they travel or not, it doesn't matter. Jordan's not playing today and Christian not playing today. Like I can tell you this right off the bat. And it's funny because Christian is the guy that was highest along or farther along than anyone else, but I really don't see them playing today against a very physical, very fast Cincinnati team that loves getting in transition, that is wildly more talented than you are. So yeah, I don't think those players are gonna be part of this game.
Yeah, it does feel like it's basically a foregone conclusion that this losing streak is going to reach 9 games, which is, there's not very, again, with every loss, they reach more and more rarefied air. I think there was only 13 teams that had lost 7 in a row. And I think there's only 8 teams that have lost 8 in a row. And I don't know exactly how many have lost 9, but it's probably like 5 teams in MLS history that have lost 9 in a row. The league record, for what it's worth, is 12 in one season and 14 overall. FC Cincinnati at one point lost 14 games straight, which bridged 2 seasons. That is effectively the record that the Sounders are chasing. Can you chase a loss record? I don't know. They're running away from, maybe is a better way of putting it. But every loss, it feels like Brian is at more and more of his wit's end with what to say. And you can see him just trying to hold it together. I think an example of his frustration was the way he answered you when you asked a perfectly legit, fair question. We all watched Jackson Reagan on the ground. It looked like they had a stretcher out, and then he came out of the game. We of course are going to ask about it. For him to act as if it was a crazy question, like, oh, no, he's fine. What's the issue here? Was very strange. Very strange.
And I wouldn't have asked it if he had not come out in the second half. Like, had, Jackson Reagan stayed the whole game, played 90 and looked like nothing happened, I might not ask that question, because, hey, he was just a quick scare. That was it. Maybe I would have asked, hey, what goes through your mind because of what's going on with the team? But he came off. He ultimately came out of the game. So there was some connection. Yeah, he went out to the ground. And so I love the fact that he makes it sound like there was no injury. No, he's fine. Nothing happened. I asked, is there injury? Well, no, he's fine. Well, why did he come off? Well, the hyperextended knee started to hurt. Okay, so that's an injury. By definition, that is an injury. So he came off. But yeah, I think that you're right. He's starting to kind of unwind and he just doesn't know what to ask anymore. He feels under pressure. And to be fair to him, we have been peppering him with all of these questions because we have no one else to ask.
We have no one else to ask. And the biggest issue, the closest thing to a revelation that he made in this press conference was he was asked about incoming transfers. And he went on this really long answer where he was sort of hemming and hawing and talking about how, like, yeah, I know I said there might be a player coming in and we'll see if that happens and all this stuff. And he starts talking about how in 2023, we made it to the Western Conference semis. And in 2024, we made it to the Western Conference final. And last year we won League's Cup. and he's just he's talking about, maybe we're a victim of our own success in the way that everyone expects us to be good every year. And it's like, well, yeah, sure, that's fair. This would still be bad. Let's not lose that. But yeah, you're right. And then finally he says, of course I want some new play. Like, of course we need new players. Of course. And it's like, thank you. Like, I think this is sort of what everyone has just been wanting him to say. Just admit that this team needs new players. And look, will that affect whether or not you actually get one? I don't know, but we want a sense that you are pushing, that everyone we want to know that everyone is doing everything possible to make a signing happen. And yes, it's going to look bad if they still don't sign someone. But guess what? It's going to look bad no matter what. It will be worse if it looks like you didn't try everything possible. And, the good news, I suppose, is that there still is hope. There's a little less than 2 weeks, but there's still time for them to make a signing. But I do think it's fair to wonder, is it too late? Like, at this point, I don't know how much of this season can be salvaged. They're still only 3 points behind the playoffs. But let's be real, making the playoffs, this is not about making the playoffs. They might make the playoffs, they might not make the playoffs. But this is a team that measures itself by contending for trophies. And it's hard to see whether or not like these moves are going to push them into that territory, unless they do something really bold. Who knows? But they got to do something for the fans just to show everyone that they are not asleep at the wheel. And also to build for the future. They need to start laying the foundation for what this team is going to become in this next era of MLS, which is rapidly changing and taking shape in front of our eyes.
Sounder at Heart has been around in one form or another since 2009. In 2026, though, we make a pretty significant evolution when we go analog. Yes, that's right, in the year of our Lord 2026, we are publishing a real-life magazine. We're calling this thing 4, as in Sounder at Heart 4.0, but we're stylizing it as IV because we absolutely love Roman numeral. And if you want to refer to it as IV, that's cool too. The first issue has a comic book style cover that was hand-drawn by local artist Kevin Newber. Features by Tim Foss, Susie Rance, and Charlie Boehm, a statistical deep dive by Kat Bush, a Q&A with Brian Schmetzer, a column by G. Willow Wilson, and photographs by Noah Reif, Max Aquino, Mike Russell, and Jane Dershowitz. I could not possibly be more proud of the work everyone put into making this, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. If you'd like to get your hands on one of these limited edition copies, we're currently selling them for $15 on our website. Get yours now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's, easier said than done. I get it. And whether there's new players coming in or not, I'm going to reiterate the fact that my expectations have dropped dramatically. Aside from them maybe making the playoffs, I don't know what else I could really sit here and tell you that I think this team can do. It's just, with Ferreira missing 8 to 10, I know that they are doing things to figure out if it is going to be 8 to 10, and no Pedro de la Vega, and trying to figure out how much you can depend on Jordan when he comes back, and how much can you depend on Christian when he comes back. I mean, there's just so many question marks that look is difficult. And when we talk about Cincinnati, I'll tell you the craziness that I would be willing to do today with the lineup, but I'll say it again. I would be already thinking about next year and what players. This is almost a continuous tryout for next year. Who's going to work out? What I'm going to do? Who's going to stay? Who's going to go? I mean, it's something that you have to do as an organization, and regardless of who's leading this team next year, same coaches or not, same GM or not. I mean, man, you just got to continue to kind of work on progressively getting better, man. But what I do know as well is that in this particular game, once again, It wasn't perfect. It wasn't great, but Paul Rothler was one of the guys that was at least trying things. I know that, again, the services into the box continue to not be there all the time, but he's the one guy pushing. He's the one guy pulling the reins. You already talked about Albert Rusnak and his inability to, affect the game. You have no other players that are going to be able to bring you what he brings you, so he continues to be the guy there. But set pieces need to get better, man. I cringe every single time that there's a set piece, because I know that there is a high percentage that is just going to hit the wall, or is just going to go beyond the marker and beyond the 18 on a corner kick, or it's just going to be an easy clearance, or the goalkeeper's going to come out and get it. These are the things that if I'm a team struggling, I need to focus on. Maybe you shouldn't be doing as much time on, scrimmages and transition moments. Just focus on set pieces and try to see if that could ignite something. Look, one of the opportunities that were very clear, that I don't know how Brandon Vasquez misses that shot in the first half, that I think it's Jaden Daniels. They gives him Jaden Nelson.
Jaden Nelson, yeah.
And I keep thinking fantasy football. This is going to start happening here. Jaden Nelson is he gives him a bad pass, but it's a very quick restart off of a throw-in. And the team is unaware, and he gets behind him, and it's a quick moment. 1, 2, 3, they're behind you. So all of those things is where you have to be able to set some sort of advantage, is do the simpler stuff better.
Well, I will say this in defense, this one small thing in defense of Rusnak. He gets the assist on a set piece. He has actually been one of the best, at least in terms of goals. He is one of the better set piece takers in the league this year. Believe it or not.
Is he really?
Yeah. It's
metric?
I mean, he's got 6 assists on set pieces. 5. Wow. He's got 5 assists. He's leading the league in set piece assists. He is
well, there you go.
Yeah, he's among the leaders in creating shots off of set pieces. So, I don't want to be too hard on his set piece taking, even though those are all assist. Like, he doesn't have any goals. He's not been able to do much in terms of shots on set pieces. But, I do think it's worth pointing out that he's been, like, that's one area of his game where he's actually been okay. That said,
again, the eye test doesn't see that, but man,
I agree. It seems like it's basically a goal or bad, right? But that's sort of also the nature of set pieces. So I don't want to put too much into that. But I will agree with you that they need to be better set piece defenders. Absolutely. They are giving up way too many. It seems like they still fall asleep too often on throw-ins. This has been a thing that's been plaguing them for multiple years, 2 years at this point, at least. So I don't know. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems with this team that I don't know if they get fixed with a couple signings. I don't know if they get fixed suddenly when, I think there's a lot of hope being put on Christian specifically. Like, that's basically what they are banking on, is for Christian to come back and fix effectively like the whole team. And I just think that's probably unrealistic. We are at a point now where we probably need to just rebuild. And look, a lot of blame to go around. It starts with Adrian Hanauer, I think, has not given his front office a budget to work with. I think you got to put some blame on Craig as well. I think the reality is that Craig is going to be in the fight for his life in this upcoming GM vote, which if you were a season ticket holder this year, you are eligible to vote in that. I would urge everyone to exercise their democratic right and vote if they are eligible in this election, whichever way they go. And we'll see we'll see. But there's a lot of blame to go around. I don't know that anyone is free of it. The physio staff probably deserves some blame. The coaching staff deserves some blame. The front office certainly deserves a lot of blame. Ownership deserves a lot of blame. It's really depressing that this team that has been so good for so long is in this place where they are. And I just can't stop thinking about coming out of the World Cup where there was so much energy and momentum that they looked so flat against the Timbers in that first game back, and they have just not really been able to recover from that. And yeah, the injuries are part of it, but it's everything. It feels like the marketing has not been up to snuff. The whole transition to the new season ticket platform has not been going great. I keep getting calls from season ticket holders who say they can't get their season ticket rep to return their messages. Like, this has happened way too much. And, like the fact that the president of business left the organization, it's none of it is good. It's none of it's good.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. I like, we're fans of this team. We want them to do well, and they are not living up to like their own standards on any level, I don't think.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to give the fans something to celebrate, something to be excited about.
Right.
And that's why it's completely fundamental. It is crucial to go out here and get a couple of signings done, which probably segue us well into the next segment. But I want to touch real quickly on what you said. To me, it was sad. It was almost shocking to see, even on a Wednesday game, a Lumen Field that was as airless and quiet as it was at times. At times, I'm going to say it was the whole time, but at times,
I mean, it was
the attendance was announced as 28. I would say that it looked like 24 and it felt like 21. I mean, it was that bad. And thank goodness for ECS and the group of supporters. I have a video of them still cheering there at the end of the game and, chanting even when they're walking off the field. But if it's not because of ECS, I mean, it would have been completely quiet in that game. It felt that dire. So, yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up. So if you exclude COVID games, meaning games where they had a limited attendance due to COVID, this was the third lowest attendance in regular season history. The only two others were their second and third game during the 2009 season when they had a lower capacity. So you can guarantee that those games had a lot more people, butts in seats. I don't think it's at all a stretch to say that this was the lowest turnstile count. We don't officially get those, but I would be willing to bet that this was the lowest turnstile count in Sounders history. And you can't blame fans for not gumming. Like, I happen to be able to give my tickets away. I have season tickets. I try to give them away to most games. I happen to find someone to take them this time. But look, and people are saying, well, it's a Wednesday, so it's tough to compare. It's like, they've played a lot of Wednesday games over the years. And this was the lowest attended Wednesday regular season game in club history. Like that, we can say that definitively. And
yeah, I saw brown paper bags in people's
Did
heads.
you really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start seeing more of that stuff. We're going to start seeing more protest signs. We're going to start seeing all kinds of things that feel very foreign, I think, to anyone who is a Sounders fan who has followed this team. And I'm sure there will be some people that say, well, this is a spoiled franchise. You guys have had nothing but success. You should be happy with what you had. And that's just not how it works. No one is happy with what they've had, especially when it's going as bad as it is right now. And it just bears repeating. This is not a normal level of suck that they are going through right now. They have lost 8 straight games in the regular season. They have lost 4 straight times at home. These are things that most teams never go through, let alone the Sounders, who have never lost more than 3 in a row under Brian Schmetzer. It's wild that we're here, but I don't know. maybe it'll all turn around against FC Cincinnati. Maybe Cincinnati will overlook the Sounders. Maybe it's the Sounders who get to be the trap game for someone else. I will say that FC Cincinnati is playing their 7th game in 22 days. So they've been playing basically every 3 days for the last 3 weeks. They will likely need to do some rotation, although Evander seems to be an absolute Iron Man. He has played in every single one of those games. So I don't know how much rotation we can expect, but this is a really, really scary offensive team, but it's also a team that does give up some goals, that is prone to some slip ups. They are not nearly as good as their talent would suggest they should be. This is a team that lost 6-1 to the New England Revolution. They had to barely hold off a CF Montreal team. They lost 4-2 to a Red Bull team that is just okay. They have played 3-3 ties with the Chicago Fire, a 4-4 tie with New York City FC. Like I said, they tend to give up quite a lot of goals. Does that create any kind of opening, do you think, for the Sounders to sneak into?
No.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because the Sounders have shown nothing offensively.
Yeah.
Maybe at the end of this Austin game, where you were able to maybe catch the team by surprise because you kind of switch things up on them. And again, it's a rotated team, and no one would dare to compare Austin's roster with this Cincinnati team. So yeah, no, I definitely do not see that as a thing. There is the travel, there's the short rest in between. There is a team that I thought played a very good game against New York City, who I consider a very good team in New York City. I thought that they were good in possession. I thought they were purposeful. I think they are very good at using width. The thing that I love about Cincinnati is that for the last 3 years, they just, I don't know where they find their wingbacks, but their wingbacks are phenomenal all the time. Phenomenal wingbacks. That's what they do. And Chinique is not the exception, man. His overloads are phenomenal right next to Valenzuela. You have Denke, who's just a guy that looked like he should be fighting in UFC. He's so strong, like a freight train coming at you. I don't know how that's going to match up well with some young defenders, maybe some undersized defenders, because if you go Alex, Hawkins, Nuhu, let's call it that, that's going to be problematic. Let's call it those two initially, but with Tino maybe instead of Nuhu, that's still difficult to put out there. Momba Diem's been phenomenal for this team. They're quick. They're excellent at just attacking space. They are just difficult to defend. And if you want to just drop deep and give Evander all kinds of room to just shoot from top of the box, well, good luck, because he's one of the best at doing that. He'll put it away from anywhere. Evander is an MVP candidate right now. Evander is a phenomenal talent, and I just don't know. I don't see how you're able to win this game unless it is on a very lucky break on a against the run of play moment or on a set piece, and then you just bunker and hold for dear life. But this team is just extremely better than you are now. So since we're already talking about Cincinnati, let me give you the wild 11 that I would put out here, and you're going to laugh because, hey, guess what? We need to laugh, right? So I would go 3-4-3, and I would put Alex, Hawkins, and Tino.
Okay.
Which is going to make you laugh because you're like, so where in the hell is Nuhu? Oh, yes. Wingback Nuhu on the left side. Wingback Nuhu on the left side. It'll never happen, but guess what? You know what? Have him just run at people. Have him just go crazy. I mean, he does it all the time. Just at least get some pressure off of Paul Rothrock. Have somebody just making crazy runs, and maybe he doesn't pass it and he keeps the ball. I mean, I don't know. So 3-4-3, the 4 in the middle, Nuhu, Snyder Burnell, this is where it gets complicated, right? This is where it gets real complicated, right? Because if I'm already telling you that I'm going to play with Tino on that side, there's no one else to play that side other than Peter Kingston. So fine, you're like, okay, that's not too crazy, sure. But then you go next. So who are you going to play out wide? Well, there's no one else to play other than Kalani, right? So now you got Kalani over there, and then you got Gomez up top. I would go with Osase, and then on the left, obviously Paul Rothrock. So I'm completely taking out the player that you said we could not live without, right? I'm completely taking him out, but I'm going to keep him as a super sub.
Sure.
Depending on how it goes out. But I just want to see it. I just want to try it. I want to see what happens there, because guess what? This game is not going to go well either way. I want to be entertained, and why not just let the train off the rails and off the tracks and just have it go crazy on you, just to see what happens, because this team has no speed. And this is when I get serious about this. This team has no width. They have no speed. Transition moments are dire. You got to make something happen when you don't have the weapons to do so. So I know that is far from ideal. People are going to laugh at this, of course, and you should, because it is a little bit of a bit. But that's how anemic this offense has looked, and how slow. I mean, it's bad. It's so bad. There was a couple of transition moments against Austin that ended in nothing because of, well, first of all, the lack of quickness on the passing and just the ability just to connect. But man, just the lack of athleticism sometimes, and the lack of just somebody pushing out wide is insane.
Yeah, I almost wonder, the only other option you'd really have, I suppose, in the central midfield there is maybe Mark O'Neill up from Defiance, I suppose, if you're looking for just crazy solutions. I don't mind the idea of benching Albert, honestly, at this point. Just put runners everywhere. And just try to catch Cincinnati sort of napping, I suppose, rather than try to go, like, you can't really try to match up man for man. You just got to sort of throw out a gimmick formation almost. I mean, that's almost what this is almost a gimmick formation. But look, I think of all the games, this is one where it feels like it's, I hesitate to say house money, because look, you're looking at a ninth straight loss down the barrel.
Exactly.
But it's a game where most people expect you to lose. And so if you pull out a point, it's a miracle. And if you lose, no one's surprised, So if you lose 5-0, is that really any worse? Like, is that really worse than losing 2-1? I don't know. At this point, I don't know that it does. Like, show me something is what I'm saying. It's like, just show me that this is a team that's willing to try stuff, that it's willing to go against the obvious solutions. And I don't think your idea is all that bad. And I don't know, in some ways, watching them lose 5-0 is easy. Like, what was so bad about watching them get just dismantled by Toluca in that Leagues Cup game, it wasn't the scoreline. It was that those were their starters. That's their best team got dismantled like that. And that's what was so depressing about it. It wasn't that they got outplayed. It's that, and if they had pulled out a Defiance lineup and they had lost in a similar fashion, people would go, hey, what do you expect? That's how it goes. And I think what's been so frustrating is that they are just trying the same thing over and over again. And so in that sense, I would appreciate your idea in that, at least it would be something different. Give us something else to talk about.
This is difficult, man. And look, it's crazy because, like, if you look at the options they have up top, they got Barlow sometimes coming off the bench. They got Ramirez, who would be a starter in this team, playing out wider in midfield. I mean, the amount of talent that they have in this team is crazy. So you might have to just wing it and just try to figure out how you're going to not play just the exact same way, man. I mean, it's insane.
It is. Well, I don't think we have much else to say. Hopefully, there is some news to report in the meantime. I am getting some positive indications from front office people that something could happen. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up at this point because look, we're at the point now, we're so far into the transfer window. The reality is that they should have already had moves done. Everyone else has already gotten something done, and everything else from here on out should just be bonus. The fact that we're sitting here wondering if they're going to make any signings at all is wild to me. But that's the situation that we're in, and so I'm not really interested in getting people's hopes up. But look, there is definitely a chance that they'll do something. So we'll see. I don't want to get excited about anything until it actually happens, and I see what they're actually doing. But I guess that's out there.
But look, they're being proactive. They're making calls. We've put up a couple of players that they've talked to and missed on. Gasper's out of the question that I've been told that's no longer.
We did chase down the Damian Downs thing.
The Damian Downs as well. That's not, is a guy that was targeted, but definitely extremely expensive. People were making themselves believe that that's possible. I've been told that he could go from the $7 million to the $9 million mark that team would want for that player. Not to mention that his salary demands would put him beyond the threshold of the U22 slot. And so, that's just not going to happen. You got to try to incentivize a player that it's playing in the top of the game and at 22 years old to come to MLS is not an easy task. You could do it, and I don't want to sound terrible or get anybody upset at me, but it's sometimes it's a little bit more palatable when it's LA or Miami with Messi and all of these things, but it's a difficult sell. So that's definitely not a thing. And if it was, then man, we gotta ask Craig Robble for forgiveness because that'd be a hell of a bring. But this is just not going to happen. And obviously people were kind of making jokes that, that St. Louis U22 that they try to sign. Look, that's the realistic. That's what we bring you. We're not going to bring you the stuff that's unrealistic. We're going to bring you what's really happened, what they're really looking at. And again, you have to understand the limitations that they have on the salary cap. So a U22 would be a player that you're looking to bring in within the league because it is very possible. And you look, if you want a DP and that could be the case. And look, this is where maybe I get a little bit upset because maybe you should have done this already, but you and I have both talked about the possibility of if you want to open up a DP spot without losing a player, you talk to Albert Rusnak, you tell him, hey, you got an option for next year. You extend them beyond that to a couple of years. You drop them off of that DP level and you open one up. And then, maybe you go out there and get a really good DP, but you have to be able to work these things out. There are a lot of moving components. So I know for sure, and I'm saying this as I've said it for a month now, I am extremely confident that at least one player will come in. I am a little less confident that two will come in. But the fact is that help is coming. Now, is that help going to be enough? No. And I'm just saying that quite frankly, but it's not about today. It's not about this year. It's not about making a run in the playoffs. It's about showing the fan base that there's a vision to be better throughout the year and be better specifically next year when you have a lot of difficult conversations to have. There's going to be a big teardown of a lot of the group players from this team. It might look extremely different. We might not even have the same medical team according to, what Brian said. It's not out of the question, right? I don't even know if the coaching staff is going to be the same next year. So it's going to look very different, but the fan base getting something to smile about is worth it to me. You showing that you're not going yet another summer window without being active is worth it. And again, this is something that you and I have been asking since last season when I think you asked Craig Weibel about why not bring in a player now and all these things last summer window. So we've been on it. And now we just kind of come to the point of desperation and anger and it's no longer funny or ironic. It's concerning.
Yeah. It is. It is. It absolutely is. Well, I think we've said enough at this point. I'll just give a little shout out. I was on, if you want to see me rant more about how bad this team is, I went on Cincy Soccer Talks show called Jersey Swap, and he was trying to like bring me up. It was funny. He was just like, no, let's give you something good to talk about. It's like, no, don't worry about me. But either way, it was kind of a funny little exchange that we had. But yeah, let's get out of here. Hope for, we'll see what we get on the weekend. Hopefully next time we're talking to you, we have something positive to talk about, even if it's not a result. But I am Jeremiah Oshan, signing off for Niko Moreno. This is No Sadietes on the Sounder Heart Podcast Network, and we will catch you next time.
Let's go Sounders.